welcome back from that short commercial break. It's exactly 32 minutes past the hour, that's of 8 a.m. And this time around is the topical discussion. And today we are looking at the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem in Uganda. And of course, getting to understand startups in Uganda. Remember, we used to have what we call as the Kampala Innovation Week, which was now transferred, rebranded, let me say that, to Uganda Innovations Week. And definitely we shall be looking at the different, what should we expect regarding that. Remember, the intention of such exhibitions is to ensure that the startup ecosystem is boosted in Uganda with an aim to drive business. And definitely we've seen quite a number of startups driving businesses in Africa, and that is something very quite remarkable. So the discussion will be in line regarding that. With me on set is, of course, an official from Startup Uganda, and we are going to be sharing quite lots and lots regarding startups in Uganda, the unique challenges, what is the way forward, and how best can we ensure that these startups are relevant to the economy. So happy to have you on set, sir.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Very welcome. Maybe you can have a brief introduction to the viewers right there.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
My name is Aguma,
Yes.
Dennis Aguma.
Yeah.
I am a business incubation consultant.
Okay.
I also research around entrepreneurship, based mainly at Birmingham City University, but most recently also in Uganda. I happen to be the executive director of an organization called NACE Africa,
Okay.
which supports early stage startups and innovators in Uganda. NACE Africa is part of the enterprise support organizations in Uganda that are organized under the auspices of Startup Uganda.
Okay.
As you know, Startup Uganda is I think the biggest umbrella organization of innovation and entrepreneurship support organizations. Name any business incubation hub that is whatever it's worth is obviously going to be under us. I think there's about over 30 now of such organizations. So we're part of a bigger ecosystem, and I'm delighted to be here.
That's very, very encouraging. Now, looking at your theme for this year's that Uganda Innovations Week,
Yeah.
we are looking at the aspect of Uganda's entrepreneur ecosystem,
Correct.
unlocking the missing links regarding that, because something very important to consider about commercialization. But anyway, before we get there, let's take a look at one of your main focus areas in this year's exhibition, looking at linkages between academia and industry, and how best, and how, like, highlighting the ways which a strong connection between can be enabled. Let's take a look at that, because it's one of your main missions.
That's a very good question, and there are two things in there.
Yeah.
One, which you mentioned about, which is the entrepreneurship ecosystem.
Yes.
The word ecosystem is branded around very casually in very many spaces.
Yeah.
But an ecosystem comes from, if you think of, let's say, a forest. It has so many things going in there. You have tall trees, you have shrubs, you have grass, you have rivers. Under rivers, you have fish. So there's a whole interconnectedness
Exactly.
of a number of things that make up that forest, that make up that Amazon, that jungle, to be as vibrant. And in terms of entrepreneurship, that includes a number of things. It includes government. There's nothing you can do in any society where government is not involved. They do things like policy that affects you. So you also have other things like financing around banks. You have the culture. If you go to the culture of India, for instance,
exactly.
or you go to Silicon Valley, the culture around enterprise, entrepreneurship, or cities like Tel Aviv is different. You know, Uganda is the most entrepreneurial country in the world.
Exactly.
So what makes us that entrepreneurial? You have other support organizations like Startup Uganda,
Yes.
and very many others. But one of the crucial ingredients is this idea of higher education institutions and universities. They're a key part. They train you and me.
Perfect.
We are the
The
entrepreneurs.
skills, yes.
But most especially, and I've seen this a lot, I've worked in Europe for quite some time now.
Yeah.
And even if you haven't lived there, you go to, most of these cities are entrepreneurial. Chances are that the university somehow is responsible or linked to the great innovations that are coming out of there.
I agree with
because of the expertise and the knowledge.
Exactly.
You go to UK, you are either in London, Oxford, Cambridge.
Yeah.
Beacons of knowledge. When we had COVID, the race was on to bring up the best vaccines. Who was the best in the world? Oxford University. With their collaborations. I worked in Cambridge around gaming and gamification. Some of the best organizations. You go to MIT and see the effect it has done. So we think that that knowledge that is sitting within a higher education institutions in Uganda has not been translated successfully and effectively. We're beginning to see a lot of that happening. A very good example was COVIDX, when we had COVID again. COVIDX, So universities are sitting on a lot of knowledge, information, knowledge. So there are huge opportunities for that collaboration. We think there's a catalyst, an opportunity to catapult and focus more on innovation-based entrepreneurship as opposed to a year. So Uganda is the most entrepreneurial country in the world, but a lot of our entrepreneurship is not the innovation type of entrepreneurship. We want to see companies that are starting today and scaling very fast to create the kind of businesses, the Twitters of this world, and so very many others.
Yeah, because we are looking at the aspect of where the country stands lately, that we should be very technical when it comes to priority, that if you're coming up with an innovation, how is that, how unique is it that it's going to attract the funding from, from the other funders? Because I see you have quite a lot partners on board. So the Innovation Village, which is funded by the European Union. So that is something so interesting. Now let's take a look at tracking the current gaps around women entrepreneurship, because it's one of the areas that you are focusing on.
Yes. Did you say women entrepreneurship?
Women entrepreneurship.
Yeah, actually the Uganda Innovation Week, maybe I should say for the benefit of the viewers, it used to be Kampala Innovation Week. And when we're talking about an ecosystem, you're looking at a holistic picture. And things are happening not just in Kampala, they're happening in my hometown in Kabale, in Gulu, in Lira, across the whole country. We see lots of ideas coming from everywhere. So we had to rebrand to Uganda Innovation Week. But also one of the other thinkings was if you invest, and we're beginning to see a lot of venture capitalists coming and being interested in Ugandan startups. When they're looking at Uganda, they don't see Kabale, they don't see Kotido. They see a startup in Uganda. And that's what we're trying to do. We're being benchmarked against Kenya, against Egypt, against Nigeria, against South Africa. And I'm really very happy with colleagues who are trying their level best in Uganda to bring Uganda up. Uganda is really coming up within the startup ecosystem space. And interestingly, women are the most entrepreneurial of the lot. And that is why when you look at the agenda for the 3 days, day 2 is dedicated to women entrepreneurship. We have more women entrepreneurs in Uganda than there are men. However, not all our women entrepreneurs are as successful as the men. So clearly there's a gap. Women are more entrepreneurial rather in number, and yet somehow they don't make it as far as the men. So there's so many challenges, some of which are societal, some of which are cultural. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done there, and day 2 is a huge opportunity for people to have those kind of discussions and to see how we can help our women.
That's very interesting. Then let's also talk about to explore the missing links around investment funding for entrepreneurs. At some point we can also consider the aspect of tech-based innovations, but in the aspect of entrepreneurship, because you are innovating, but you also need to benefit from that innovation. Let's take a look at that missing links, funding gaps.
Two key things. One was about tech and innovations. I have my views on that one. Very many people think that innovation has to be radical. No, it doesn't have to be radical. It can be incremental. We're so blessed in this generation that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to reinvent Facebook or Twitter, but you can use it to effective advantage. So we're seeing lots of incremental, but potentially highly scalable innovations coming up from our ideas.
Very true.
However, part of that leapfrogging that we need, funding and finances, are very important. At the moment, and I'm speaking from an organization that only benefits at the moment from funding and grants mainly. And I know that I speak for very many of our members who a lot of the work we do is dependent on the mercy of international donors and organizations.
Definitely.
And of course we're very grateful, but that comes with particular issues and challenges. I don't want to go into them.
Of course.
So funding, if we're not able to get the kind of funding that will enable us to support these other individuals, where are they going to get their funding from? They normally say that you get your funding from friends, family, and fools.
Savings.
Friends, if Uganda is one of the most entrepreneurial countries in the world, but it's also one of the poorest. So most of your friends are unlikely to have the kind of money that you need to scale your business.
Scale your business out.
Family, same story. You're all in the same boat, poverty. So where else do you get the money from? Venture capitalists. You would normally go to the bank if you're an SME, but if you're in a startup, you just have an idea. You don't even have a bank account. Okay. So venture capitalists come in at that stage to try and look at your business, look at the opportunity, look at the potential for growth, and then invest in you. So huge challenge. One of the things we're trying to attract, and indeed day 3 of the Uganda Innovation Week is dedicated and focused on having those kind of discussions. Day 2 is women, but day 3 is around finance and facilitating some of these innovations. How do we get funding for them? We're finding that a lot of our young people have brilliant ideas. However, sometimes they're not ready to receive the money. But the issue is not the money. This week we were having, I was having a meeting with one of the incubatees within our program, who is on course to receive potentially like $1.5 million and the kind of due diligence that they have to do, the kind of things that they go through. Not very many of our young people are prepared for that process. And that is where we come in as entrepreneurship support organizations, the business incubation hubs, the innovation villages that you're talking about, Nice Africa, and very many others. That's how we come in under the auspices of Startup Uganda to look at this ecosystem. How can we all work together? If there's an opportunity in this organization, can I send my people there? If I have women entrepreneurs, can I send them to Zimba women who are specializing in that? If Zimba women has people that, can we work together? We're at the moment working on a Startup Act to kind of help us streamline and reorganize and bring us together in a more cohesive way. Can we bring government on board? Can we put our voices together to support our young entrepreneurs?
Now let's also explore the fact of commercialization of innovations, because I've tried to walk around so many innovators around, and when I tell them, are you really benefiting from your innovation? They're telling me, oh, not yet. And some of them are just proud of having, yes, I'm an innovator, but the entrepreneurial capability is not there. How have you prepared these young men to be ready to really have innovations which can really do something? Because at the end of the day, the nation has to develop.
You know, entrepreneurship is glorified more often than not. But I can tell you, it's like running through a fire. And it's not unusual for companies and startups, and I can name them, Amazon being a very good example, where for years they're making losses.
True.
But they're focused on growth. And that customer acquisition process has a cost. And it's not that you start with a brilliant idea today and then you know things happen. No. There's a lot that happens. Supply chains, networks and connections, getting that first customer, for them to come back, for them to subscribe. So scaling a business is not, and there's also other challenges of growing too fast. Where you're growing so fast, you don't have the skill
to maintain that.
I mean, we see that a lot, even for us as organizations like ours. So there are challenges, but there is a process that you have to go through. You have to pay the school fees, as it were, to walk through that fire. But if you hang in there long enough, you emerge on the other side. So those are the challenges around entrepreneurship, and no one prepares you for that. In fact, one of the things that we're going to focus on day 1 is around entrepreneurship education and what's happening within our higher education institutions. When I was saying the connections between the universities, the entrepreneurship skills, how do you get them? You know, that level of resilience. Unless you've ever attempted to work on a product, take it to market, you don't know about communication, you don't know about negotiation, you have never done pricing strategy on anything. Most organizations, if you went to work for a corporate organization, everything is laid out for you, you just tick a box, you select in very nicely. But if you're going to start your own organization, you're doing everything from scratch, almost by yourself, that level of resilience, you know. So entrepreneurship is not a walk in the park, it's like running through bushfire in the Hamatan. And it is organizations like ours, like Nice Africa, like all organizations under Startup Uganda, that will give you that hand, that walk with you throughout that journey, give you a mentor, organize sessions for you around communication, around how to pitch your idea, around how to approach venture capitalists. I could go on and on. One of the things we're finding challenging when we run one of our programs as Nice Africa, we're very keen on something called intellectual property. Your idea is valuable, and often people run off with their ideas, and then you realize that another person has taken their idea because it was never protected.
And
yet the value within your idea is around intellectual property. When a venture capitalist comes to buy your idea, if you don't have that intellectual property, you might struggle to value your business, and yet that is the most valuable piece. So there are so many things that people don't know that our support organizations and members do, and that is the whole purpose of the Uganda Innovation Week, to make known what we're doing as organizations, but also to put innovation at the center of everything else we do. We see a lot of wastage in government. Lately, the government is talking about the parish development model. I'd love to see an innovation component in that. You know, I have not heard of that. Who says that the guy at the parish level cannot be innovative? Or could we have an idea that can coordinate all these parishes and maybe, I don't know.
Actually, today in a report in New Vision, there was the aspect of tracking, being in position to track those people that are being distributed the parish development model funds with a system which reunites the entire parishes in the country.
Yes.
So I believe that's the innovation aspect.
And data is very important.
Yeah.
Data and information are very important because that is what informs your next right move. If you're government and you're talking about policy, you're sitting on huge amounts of information. So yeah, those are the kind of discussions we're going to be having, and we hope during the day, or sorry, the 3 days, to have key government individuals in there. We are launching during the Innovation Week, we're launching a report around our entrepreneurial ecosystem. We've been mapping it. We have done a startup survey. So that's when we're talking about data and information.
Data and information.
Huge and valuable information for stakeholders, including third-party organizations, NGOs that support us. I think they would find that the deliberations during the 3 days are going to be invaluable. And by the way, there's other events happening in the run-up to the Innovation Week. This whole November month is very busy. You even have a Global Entrepreneurship Week in there. So November is a very interesting month, but the pinnacle of it will be the Uganda Innovation Week, which starts, by the way, for the benefit of our listeners, on the 22nd of November, and it's going to be at Mestio Hotel here in Kampala. The whole place has basically been locked down. We're going to have fireside sessions, cocktail, award ceremonies. So it's not just your bog standard panel discussion. No, there's going to be exhibitions, brilliant stuff. I would encourage every youth, young person, anyone innovative, even if you're not an entrepreneur or innovative, just come and be part of the buzz.
All right, now before we get into a break, I want us to discuss the aspect of, let's examine scenarios where innovations or startups in Uganda or Africa are driving business.
Ooh, there are very many. I mean, there are very many. The Jumias of this world, the Safe Borders, the Centers of this world. I could go on. The Kafreshis of this world. We ran a program last year where we had over 4,800 different ideas.
4,000?
Yeah, within the peak of lockdown. And within that, you had like 100 of those startups that we are going to be helping with business incubation. This was funded by the UNDP. Now, under that, I'll just give you an example of one of the guys, for instance, one of the products called Kafresh. These guys are on course to receive venture funding. And their product is helping within farming areas. And you know, people talk about food security and food wastage. A lot of the food that is grown in your garden is wasted almost at the gate level. So when you're talking about extending the shelf life of an avocado, for instance, and very many people are using chemicals, these guys have an organic way of extending the shelf life that is better than the chemical one. So guess what that's going to happen? Markets in Europe that want stuff that is organic now have an avocado whose shelf life is extended by about 7 days, much longer than these other chemical ones.
That is incredible.
That makes your avocado more valuable, more sought after. And it's not just avocado you're talking. They will quote anything with that organic substance.
So that idea was among the 4,800?
No, it was among the top 100.
The top 100 ideas that were chosen?
Oh, yes. And there are very many ideas. So many ideas. So Uganda is not short of ideas, and I would struggle to say this company is doing ABC. There are so many. And I think they are now in that infancy stage. I reckon in about 5 years, everyone is going to be looking at Uganda. If you look back, about maybe 5 years or so, everyone was talking about Kenya, Egypt, Nigeria, South Africa, and rightly so. But that discussion is beginning to change. We're seeing a lot of interest in Uganda, and a lot of it is to do with the work that we've been doing as enterprise support organizations under the auspices of Startup Uganda.
Okay.
Very many people are doing very many things. Just to get to 100 ideas, you need to cast the net across the whole world.
Definitely, it's big.
And then get like 4,800 individuals, and then whittle them down. Even those 100, you know, half might fail. It's
Still
okay.
shortlisting.
It's a normal process, but of those 100, those 50 are actually going to make it. One of them could be the next biggest.
What if the 100 both have the potential to get the funding?
Well and good. Well and good. That's what we want to see, those kind of things happening. And that's what part of the Innovation Week is about, to come and be part of those discussions. Because you don't know who you're going to meet. During that time, we have people flying in from across the whole world. We're hoping that Ebola doesn't mess things up. But it's going to be a fantastic 3 days.
Okay. Before we go into a break, let's take a look at intellectual property. That's one of the aspects that is causing worry among so many innovators. I've experienced that. I reach out to different people, like, I'm scared of this if I put it out there. Because Uganda signed the treaty regarding the international treaty regarding intellectual property. That was in 2000. But unfortunately, it didn't ratify. So that exposes loopholes in the intellectual property policy within the country. So what security is given to these innovators?
Yeah, first and foremost, there's no two ways around it. Intellectual property is really very important, especially if you're in the ideas business, you know. But secondly, I'm really very happy with Uganda Registration Services Bureau under the great stewardship of the Registrar General Maseka Inobuisho. They've done excellent work to share, and I highlight this kind of information to people. We have worked with them during this Youth Ideathon program, and they were extremely helpful. We already have a working arrangement in which they had offered to support some of these startups, like for free, because it's their mandate. If you look at the International Innovation Index, which ranks how innovative countries are, Uganda does so badly. We are so below there. In fact, we're almost at the bottom. And part of it is because we do not register our intellectual property. And intellectual property does not necessarily have to be like E equals MC squared. No. It could be small things like your logo, small things like your, you know. So there's a whole breadth of things to dig into. If we had more time, I would dig into it. But I'm very happy with the Uganda Registration Services Bureau. They're doing an excellent job. But we need to do more to inform people and participants about the need to register intellectual property.
That is very, very important.
It's a key part of innovation.
Okay. Well, it's exactly 54 minutes past the hour of 8 a.m. And of course, the topical discussion this time around, we are discussing the startup ecosystem in Uganda. And of course, looking up to the Uganda Innovation Week that is scheduled, of course, to take place in November, late November. This particular month actually we're in, and quite a lot is going to be discussed right there, and quite a great window of opportunity to investors and also the innovators into of course the business world regarding that. Let's get into a short commercial break. Of course, more insight is coming up as we're going to be examining what's the way forward and those unique challenges that startups experience in Uganda. Good morning, stick around.